Hi everybody. So my name is Alex Heveri and I am a Tucson-based sculptor. I work in a variety of mediums, but for this botanical garden exhibit I worked with steel and glass. And so this is a stained glass, but it's an unusual type of glass. It's called Dalle de Verre or antique slab glass. And they used to use this glass a long time ago in churches, and they still do, but they used to set it in with concrete. And nowadays there's a two-part epoxy that you can use and purchase that's exclusively made for this glass. So I don't know of any other sculptors that sculpt with this glass. It can be fragile and sometimes difficult to work with. I can never put in glass and then weld onto this after the fact. So I have to think that through and do all of my welding first and then set the glass in secondarily. So this is a blue morpho butterfly that I made for the Botanical Gardens exhibit. My work prior to the Botanical Gardens exhibit was largely abstract, but because this is a Botanical Gardens exhibit, I tried to make the sculptures look as much as I could, look to the actual insect that I was making at the time. So this is the blue bird of happiness, and this would be a typical example of my abstract work that I did prior to making more sculptures that look more like the insect that I was making. So this is Blue Bird of Happiness that's on loan from the collection of Tony and Maria Delheim. And you could see that I cut the steel, and then from the inside of this wing, I flipped it over and made the other side of that wing, and then inset it with this glass. So this is a stag beetle that was particularly challenging for me to make. When I was envisioning making a Botanical Gardens exhibit, Michelle Conklin and my friend Terry were pretty insistent that I include beetles. And I had never made a beetle before. So it took some time and thought to figure out how I was going to do that. And I came up with this design, which is pretty unique. It's like a cutout design that you can get from a kit. And then I enlarged that and had it cut out of steel. And so I welded all of the parts together. And these wings were separate, and then I welded them on. And everything else was separate, and then I welded them on together. And it turned out really nicely. With the wing, I learned about how beetles fly. They actually fly with these wings, and they fold in and out. This is end caps that you would get for fencing or for pipes, and I had those powder coated, and I set them in to make the eyeballs. So this is a yellow stag beetle. So this is an eastern tiger swallowtail, and this swallowtail butterfly and another swallowtail butterfly that I've made, a blue mountain swallowtail, are my two favorite butterflies in the exhibit. These butterflies were particularly challenging because I wanted them to be as close to an exact replica of the actual butterfly as possible. And to do that, it required that I precisely draw out the pieces of glass. So I want to talk about the process of each glass that I'm cutting. For each piece of glass that I'm cutting, I'm doing multiple cuts on the edges because it's curved. Multiple cuts on every single edge. It takes about an hour to cut each piece of glass. And then I chip it on each side on the corners with the chipper to give it a facet. And the purpose of that facet is to have the glass sparkle when the sun hits it. When the sunlight hits it from behind too, it causes the parts where it was chipped to give it an added dimension of sparkle. So what was really fun about the eastern swallowtail was the spacing in between the glass is critical to make it look like a real eastern swallowtail. So during the process of when I'm sitting in the glass, I can't necessarily see what it looks like because I have it backed up with a board, and the glass can be kind of dark on that board. So by the time I put all the glass in and set it in with the two-part epoxy and then let that set, and then I do the other side, and then I take the boards off and then put it in the sunlight and see what it looks like. It's a surprise for me too. So when I saw these and that I had got what the spacing was and how it all came together, I fell in love with these butterflies. So much so that I replicated 2 of them so that I could keep 2 for myself. So this is a dramatic Blue Mountain Swallowtail butterfly. Again, one of my favorite butterflies that I made for the exhibit. So there's a couple of features to notice on this particular butterfly. First of all, the steel that I made is powder coated with a sparkly powder coat. So when the sun hits it, you're going to see that the body of the butterfly and the wings actually have a blue sparkle to them. This particular color of glass, this deep purple blue, is really hard to get. So I was fortunate to be able to get as many pieces as I needed of this color of dramatic purple blue glass to make this swallowtail butterfly. I actually had to use black glass for the first time. So on the outer part of the wings, this is black glass. A Blue Mountain swallowtail actually has black in their wings here, and it has a vein that separates each of these parts. So I took my wet tile saw and cut a line through each one to give it that effect. So because of the dramatic nature of this butterfly and the sparkle and the hidden black glass, this is one of my favorite butterflies. So this is a common green dragonfly, and the actual dragonfly part is 6 foot by 6 foot. And what was challenging about this is how to transport this and also how to display it. So I've been sculpting with steel and glass for 27 years. And to be able to make a sculpture like this, I have to have heavy equipment. So I have a plasma cutter, I have a welder, but to transport these, I also have a forklift on my property. And when I'm suspending some of the things, I have a 2-ton stationary crane. And I have a big workshop where I can do all of my own welding. So what I did is I made a pole of bamboo. I made a pole to make it look like bamboo. So I cut some of these parts here at different intersections, so it's not a pole that's straight up and down, because bamboo isn't straight up and down. Dragonfly wings are just amazing. So it was a challenge for me to figure out how I can get my medium and to look as close as I could to an actual dragonfly wing. Because I'm an artist, I want to make my sculptures myself from the beginning until the end. So this sculpture is called More Bees Please, and it is the grand finale for my Botanical Gardens exhibit. In the process of making this beehive, I had spent several months coming up with different designs for the actual beehive. And all of my designs, in my opinion, were boring and pale in comparison to this. I was having a difficult time coming up with an original design for a beehive. So when I was at Superior Steel one day, they had these drops that were hexagon. So when I saw these little drops, I saw a hexagon within a hexagon within a hexagon. So Superior Steel gave me these drops, and I took them home, and I welded a hexagon out of a hexagon, and then insert some of the pieces with steel for stability, and the other parts with glass, with different colors of glass that would look like actual honey. For the bees themselves, these bees are made out of end caps that you would use for fencing or for piping. And I welded them all together into the shape that they are. And I just found a shape of an end cap for a ball for the head, for the eyes, and for the mouth, and for the tail. So this beehive is immensely heavy. And for transportation, I had to come up with some way to be able to make it, to enable me to transport it. So this beehive comes in, put together in 3 pieces. It comes apart into 3 pieces, 2 sides, and then the top, and it's bolted together. The top is bolted together. And there was no other way to transport something of this magnitude or this weight safely without it being able to come apart. So the story about this particular blue morpho butterfly is that my mother really loves my work. And so my mom, when she saw my butterfly, she really wanted one. And so she kept pressing me, please make me a butterfly, please make me a butterfly. And so I said, Mom, you know, to make one of these butterflies takes a lot of time, but also they're really expensive to make. They cost a couple of $1,000s to make them. So my mother said, that's fine. And she gave me the money to make this blue morpho butterfly for the materials. And then once I was done making this butterfly, I loved it so much. And so I kept it for the exhibit. So when my mother came through with me to look at the Botanical Gardens exhibit, when we were walking through here, the whole time she kept asking, where's my butterfly? Where's my butterfly? And so it was the final thing that we showed her.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect. I'm sure you've got it.
Yeah.
I'm like a traditional
No.
director. I'm a traditional director. I'm giving you too
Direct
much.
me. Direct me. I take direction somewhat well.
Oh, you're great. No, I'm overdoing it. So.
So the did I talk about the bees?